To Long Island, to go out on the set, you could have just gone out to our plaza.
So we promised them they can come inside, and that's the best we could do. We brought inside, outside.
We need you to be outside, but we'll create a set that looks like it's inside. That is Tullamore, great whiskey, I think. I've heard. Yeah, you talk about a long day. Don't start drinking right now, or you'll be taking a nap later.
That's important. Yeah, every once in a while, Ainsley gives some great advice. Don't drink now.
Don't drink now, Brian.
Unless you're watching us in Ireland, where it's afternoon.
5 o'clock somewhere.
Yeah.
Right.
Right, that's a different song.
All right. Meanwhile, let's talk a little bit about this. The President of the United States, when he was running for president, Donald Trump made it very clear he would do his best, if he becomes president, to cut the waste in government. And yesterday we saw Trump's skinny budget, a blueprint for $1.1 trillion. And there are a bunch of programs that he feels are not effective, a waste of money. They're going to cut them. And the other stuff that he likes and is a benefit to the country, they're going to wind up with
because it's Friday, I think we should start with the positive news. There are some agencies that are winners in this, such as the defense. They're getting a 10% increase. Homeland Security, a 6.8% increase. Veterans, a 5.9% increase. And then school choice, they're getting $1.4 billion.
Yeah, Health and Human Services is going to get a cut. FAA research is going to get a cut. They're looking to privatize also air traffic controllers, too, so they'll get it off the books. The EPA is going to get slammed by about 30%. USDA, and we're going to talk about the Climate Change State Department. That whole element's going to be cut out to the tune of overall 30%. But what's getting a lot of people up in arms, believe it or not, is the slash of a federally, not fully funded, but we contribute to PBS, and we contribute to the endowments for the arts.
Sure. Regarding PBS, you know, some people who are horrified that Trump has suggested this are talking about, you know, and we had a tweet earlier about how to Ivanka Trump, you know, your father is the one who killed Snuffleupagus, and
Billy
Big Bird
Eichner said that,
and also Sesame Street. Sesame Street is now on HBO, no longer on PBS. They moved over to HBO as well.
Really?
Meanwhile, yeah, absolutely. We did a big story about it. Mick Mulvaney, meanwhile, says, look, this is about priorities. Can we really afford to do some programs that get a lot of money? Here he is yesterday at the White House.
I think it's probably one of the most compassionate things we can do to actually you're
help the elderly.
You're only focusing on half of the equation, right? You're focusing on recipients of the money. We're trying to focus on both the recipients of the money and the folks who give us the money in the first place. It's a simple message, by the way. I put myself in the shoes of that steel worker in Ohio, the coal mining family in West Virginia, the mother of two in Detroit, and I'm saying, okay, I have to go ask these folks for money, and I have to tell them where I'm going to spend it. Can I really go to those folks, look them in the eye, and say, look, I want to take money from you, and I want to give it to the Corporation for Public Broadcasting? That is a really hard sell. In fact, something we don't think we can defend anymore.
Very interesting tack there, because he's saying, look, it's not his money, it's not the reporter's money. These are other people who are contributing to this, and then we're ferrying it to other people in need. So there are a lot of reporters going, well, what about Meals on Wheels? Don't elderly people have to eat? And he's just saying, listen, they do, but so do other people have to eat.
Right.
Their money, they're using their money.
He's saying, don't say we're insensitive, we're not compassionate. We are compassionate. We're so compassionate that we care about where your tax dollars are being spent.
Yeah, ultimately, do you really think that Washington, D.C. has spent your money wisely? That's what he's saying.
You know, we might not be talking about this. We might not have to cut if they weren't putting shrimp on the treadmill and all these crazy waste things. Tattoo removals, that's where our tax dollars are going.
Sure.
Those were all the stories for so long, and the president now is saying no more of that, no more wasteful spending.
Well, he's talking about getting rid of whole government agencies, which is refreshing. Meanwhile, Jane has emailed us this morning. She says, I support President Trump's budget, especially cuts to the arts. It's about time they grew up and stood on their own feet. Bye-bye, Big Bird.
And, of course, Jamie Lee Curtis came out and condemned the cut in the National Endowment of the Arts. And here's the response from Mark. Jamie Lee Curtis is worth $35 million. Other actors are worth a lot more. Let them support the arts.
All right. Thank you so much for sending in your comments. Keep those coming, because we're going to keep talking about this throughout the show.
Do you like the idea of what Donald Trump, President of the United States, is trying to do with this, or do you think they're making unnecessary cuts that are going to harm people? Let us know, friends at FoxNews.com. You could tweet us, or you could Facebook us as well.
A couple of things. Without cutting entitlements, there's people, the discretionary part of the budget's getting smaller and smaller, number one. And number two, Number two is the best thing would be to get more money to come in by growing the economy.
Sure.
And if the president gets his win, we start growing at 3 and 4%. A lot of programs are going to get funded.
But it's got to start with doing something about health care, and right now that is a little squishy up on Capitol Hill. Meanwhile, in the briefing room at the White House yesterday,
Crazy.
It was a crazy day. Earlier in the day, there was a tape released by Mike Morell, who used to be one of the top guys at the CIA, and he said, look, this whole Trump colluded with the Russians thing, nothing to that. Absolutely nothing to that.
5 days prior, James Clapper said, when I left office in the middle of January, we saw no collusion between the two.
Sure. And then you got the top guys up in Congress saying, from what we have seen, we haven't seen anything to suggest that Barack Obama wiretapped President Donald Trump. That led to some back and forth about media bias. Here's Sean Spicer versus the world.
It's interesting to me that, you know, just as a point of interest, that when one entity says one thing that claims one thing, you guys cover it ad nauseum. When Devin Nunes came out and said, I think it's very possible yesterday, there was crickets from you guys. There was no, hold on. I understand that, Jonathan. And where was your passion and where was your concern when they all said that there was no connection to Russia? Where was it then? You crickets from you guys. That it's interesting how when evidence comes out and people who have been briefed on the Russia connection come out and say that there was nothing that they have seen that proves a connection, you choose not to cover that. You don't stop the narrative. You continue to perpetuate a false narrative.
But it sounds like, Sean, that you and the president are saying now, well, we don't mean wiretapping anymore, because that's not true anymore. So now we're going to
that's not
other forms of surveillance. What's it going to be next?
No, Jim, I think that's cute, but at the end of the day, we've talked about this for 3 or 4 days.
So this is the issue. The Senate Intelligence Committee came out and said, so far we saw nothing to indicate that President Obama, in an organized fashion, wiretapped the Trump organization when they were trying to become the next president of the United States. And the House said it the day before. This is Republicans and Democrats together. Then Sean Spicer delayed his presser for an hour. Where their thought was that he's preparing some type of response, knowing that the president, too, said yesterday to Tucker Carlson, I need a couple of weeks, and I'll be able to bring something forward that will reveal some things.
Which would be great. Keep in mind, we had Sharyl Attkisson on this program. She's somebody who personally has been surveilled by the government. She said the intelligence apparatus in the world today has ways to surveil you at the direction of somebody where there are absolutely no fingerprints. There's no authorization. It's scary stuff, according to her.
Right, and Sean Spicer is defending the president and saying, you know, that's his job to defend the president, but he says, you know, we need to have an investigation, get to the bottom of this and just see if it did happen.
If that tweet didn't go out 2 weeks ago, if he said, you know, some have said that perhaps the previous administration were wiretapping me, we're going to look into that. But he tweeted out, even though we put wiretapping in quotes so definitively, it let all his critics go wild. And even though this story from Russia has proven to be exactly what the president said, no, they're there, they're running with the tweet, and they're not letting go of the tweet.
Whether or not it happened, we don't know, but it is interesting that we do know that Sharyl Attkisson, she experienced this, so did our own James Rosen and other people as well. So it's just...
Well, and Sean Spicer was right about the media bias. Why aren't you guys revealing more about
holding them
no
accountable
collusion thing?
Right.
Craziest press I've ever seen.
Now we have put to you want to go on outside?
Going out?
Yeah,
okay.
go on outside.
Where are you going?
She's going outside because about a half an hour ago, we started a test. The 5-second rule, apparently, when it comes to hard food, is now the half-hour rule. And Ainsley's going to go outside. She's going to put on her coat.
I'm going to get my coat.
It's been about 20 minutes, Ainsley, right? It's been
I
about
can't
20
believe,
minutes.
why are you volunteering to do this? I'm eating the wet bagel on the floor of the plaza.
I gave up carbs.
Right.
Brian, your wussification of America once again.
Brian?
Leave it to the ladies, Jillian, right? Leave it to the ladies. Jillian, why don't you take over from here?
Stepping up for you.
Okay.
That was an exit toss. Has that ever been done before? As he leaves, he tossed over.
All right.
There's your exit toss.
I still want the green bagel. There was one half a green bagel and someone else got it.
Another half hour, that bagel's going to be green. All right. Tell us about the news.
Enough with you guys. We got some breaking news. Now, straight to a Fox News alert. It's breaking as we speak. A horrifying scene described as catastrophic after a house explodes in the middle of the night. This home in Maryland, right outside Washington, D.C., scattered into 1 million pieces. You're looking at new video that's live from the scene right now. The homeowner is still unaccounted for, and several houses nearby were also damaged. It's unclear what caused the blast. but it was felt up to a mile away. Also breaking right now, Secretary of State Rex Tillerson exclusively telling Fox News the United States will equip our allies with nuclear weapons if North Korea's threats escalate. The nation's top diplomat meeting with the Prime Minister of South Korea, saying a military action is an option and it's on the table.
The policy of strategic patience has ended if they elevate the threat of their weapons program to a level that we believe requires action. That option is on the table.
Secretary Tillerson is wrapping up his first trip to Asia in China tomorrow. And those are your headlines.
All right. Thank you very much, Jillian. Now we go outside. Once again, we've been testing the liberals' hair on fire over President Trump's new budget, calling it a slap in the face to the American people. How bad is it? Erick Erickson is the founder of The Resurgent. He's a Fox News contributor. He joins us from down in Georgia today. Eric, you like the president's plan, don't you?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty conservative budget headed directly in the right direction.
All right. Some of the things you like the fact we got the winners and losers here. The military spending, the border wall, Veterans Affairs will all wind up with more money. And I know you agree with that. But here are some of the losers that you agree with. The IRS, the United Nations, and the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. Why do you think those should wind up with the axe?
Well, I think the United Nations has proven itself to not really be pro-United States or pro-any democracy. The IRS is just now finding documents related to the Tea Party scandal. They clearly don't need as much money to go after conservatives. And, you know, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, for years we were told we had to save Big Bird. Well, they sold him to HBO. Why do they need government money?
That's exactly right. Look, if anybody's shocked, they shouldn't be. Because it was very clear Donald Trump, when he was running for president, was going to suggest these as cuts all along.
Right. And, you know, I'm a little disappointed in Republicans who saw this election, which was clearly a shakeup of the status quo, saying, well, this budget shakes up the status quo. It's dead on arrival. No, this is something they should consider. These are really good cuts. He wants to cut 18 federal agencies, save $3 billion. Right. We don't need any of the agencies he's cutting.
Paul Ryan, Mitch McConnell, lukewarm on it. What's up with that?
Well, you know, it shakes up the status quo. Washington, of both sides, that they don't like budgets that contract from the norm, and this one does. But it does so in a good way. It puts us on the right direction towards fiscal solvency.
But isn't this also the right direction to draining the swamp? And isn't that what a lot of people want?
Yes, it is. Draining these 18 federal agencies that duplicate services and waste money, it's a good right step. Listen, Mick Mulvaney did a great job preparing this budget for the president. The president should be very proud of it, and he can say it is a conservative budget, putting us in the right direction.
All right. It is. It does make some cuts. All right, Erick Erickson, thank you very much. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, you too.
All right. Meanwhile, straight ahead, can you get fired for being a Trump supporter? One woman finding out the hard way. She's next.
The gentleman on the left, by the way, he was also Olaf in Frozen. He's an amazing actor. His name is Josh Gad. Yeah, he's fantastic. But yeah, the movie is not as good as the original film. The 91 movie is so much better. I just wish they had a stronger leading actress as Belle. Because I love what Belle stands for. She's a great character.
And the candlesticks, do they come to life like in the animated version?
Yeah. Oh, totally. And Ewan McGregor plays Lumiere. You have Ian McKellen playing Cogsworth. You have Emma Thompson playing Mrs.
Angela
Potts.
Lansbury?
They were the Not in this one, but they were great. They're great characters. The supporting cast is actually better than the leading cast in this movie.
Right. I loved her in Murder, She Wrote. Now, meanwhile, on the serious stuff, China's growing influence in Hollywood. I heard they bailed out of a major purchase, but you say they are still really entranced by it?
Yeah. What is China trying to do to Tinseltown?
So here's the interesting thing about what's happening in China. So there's a lot of talk about the box office in China becoming bigger than the United States. And I think a lot of that has to do with certain films that are being tailor-made for the Chinese audience. Now, there were 3 films I looked up that I thought was very interesting. Warcraft, for example, was a movie that did $220 million in China alone, but only $47 million here in the U.S. The Great Wall, which is a film I reviewed recently on your show with Matt Damon, that did $170 million in China, but only $44 million here in the U.S. So So I feel like there are films that are being made specifically for China, but with American actors. So it's an interesting thing that's happening. But then there's other sides to the story too. I mean, Star Wars had an example where their money made more money in the U.S. than it did in China. So it all depends. I think there's certain films that are made for the Chinese audience.
Steve, this is great news for you because you have that screenplay, Mao, not a bad guy. This is the perfect opportunity to put it out there and get it cast and get it financed.
Kevin, we also see that in music, though. You can have like this great musician in another country and then doesn't do as well, doesn't sell as many albums.
Loses something in the translation. Well, that's interesting because a lot of Chinese money coming into Hollywood. So ultimately,
yeah, I completely agree. Yeah.
The question is,
I agree.
how's it going to wind up? What's the end of that story? All right, Kevin.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens there, man.
All right. Thank you very much for joining us live today.
All right, illegals looking for a sanctuary city shouldn't mess with this sheriff.
Butte County is not a sanctuary county. Butte County is a county that follows the law.
All right, he has a whole lot more to say about that, too.
Yep, I hope so. Plus, President Trump and GOP leaders confident their plan to repeal and replace Obamacare is going to pass. But what about patients? Are they going to be happy about it? A fiery debate between Dr. Mark Siegel, I just saw him in the hall, and Dr. Ezekiel Emanuel, I did not see him in the hall.
Very risky.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wait, why did you move over, Brian? Because this guy was sitting next to you.
Oh, look at that. Leprechaun from Party City.
Now, is Leprechaun good luck to see a leprechaun, or is it bad luck for them? What is the thing with that?
Well, I know we had a leprechaun in the studio a few years ago. That did not turn out well, so maybe it could be bad luck.
We did not know we had to give him a breathalyzer before he got here.
All right, Brian, go out there and look for a four-leaf clover, and we're going to hand it over to Jillian, who has some headlines.
And then we have a fiery healthcare debate coming your way.
All right, Jillian?
Make sure it's fiery. Breaking overnight, we've got a cop killer who may be off the streets thanks to bombshell new evidence. Raymond Durham, a violent and well-known offender, is accused of ambushing 2 police officers in Detroit Wednesday night. Authorities now say his DNA at the crime scene is linked to the murder of Wayne State University officer Sergeant Colin Rose. He was killed execution style last November. And if you're illegal and looking for a place to stay in the United States, don't even think about setting foot in one Colorado county. The sheriff there says his town follows the rules.
Butte County is not a sanctuary county. Butte County is a county that follows the law. What I do as sheriff is do my best to make decisions that ensure that the public is safe.
The sheriff saying he opposes a state bill that would make parts of Colorado sanctuary, saying it bans local law enforcement from cooperating with the feds. And a new feud sparking on the Senate floor after Senator John McCain outright accuses fellow Republican Senator Rand Paul of working for Russia.
They are now carrying out the desires and ambitions of Vladimir Putin, and I do not say that lightly. I repeat again, the senator from Kentucky is now working for Vladimir Putin.
McCain referring to Paul's objection to allow the tiny southeastern European country of Montenegro to become a member of the United Nations. Senator Rand Paul defends himself, saying, quote, "It is unwise to expand the monetary and military obligations of the United States given the burden of our $20 trillion debt." Maybe has a fair point. And one of the nation's top universities is now backtracking after being accused of firing a law enforcement dispatcher over her political views. Kim Dearman says the University of Wisconsin has canned her for supporting President Trump's immigration halt.
I had a casual conversation with the young lady that I was training. Apparently she was offended by it, by me indicating that I thought terrorists or immigrants should be sent back to their Middle Eastern country.
Following the backlash, Dearman has been offered her job back, but says she's worried about returning. Those are your headlines for right now.
All right,
Brian.
Thank you, Jillian. Appreciate it. Meanwhile, President Trump and GOP leadership are confident in their plan to repeal and replace Obamacare on many levels. But what are patients saying? After all, isn't that what counts? What do they want from the new plan that Obamacare is not offering? Here to discuss this is two of the best. Fox News medical aid team Dr. Mark Siegel and Obamacare architect and Fox News contributor Dr. Ezekiel Emanuel. Thanks, guys, for being here.
Hey, Brian.
So,
nice
Dr. Emanuel, I know you love your you like your plan. You're after all, you help give birth to it. But if you could add something to it to make it better, what would it be for the patient?
Well, I think there are two things we really need to do. One, it's quite clear that the American public is upset about deductibles and how much they need to pay out of pocket before the insurance kicks in. We definitely need to bring that down. Interestingly, when the Congressional Budget Office evaluated the most recent Republican plan, they said deductibles would go up. That is going in the wrong direction. So I think we need to make health care more affordable.
Right.
And the flip side of that is we need to pay doctors and hospitals differently so that they actually are interested in keeping people healthy and don't just get paid when they treat the sick. And I think that's a lot of what the public really wants. Some of the things they really liked is, no deductibles, no copays for prevention. I think that's really important. No deductibles and copays for 3 primary care visits. I think that's also important to keep.
All right, Dr. Siegel, you know what's put out there now. You know what's got to be fixed. And the one thing that drives people crazy is these huge deductibles. They say, I might as well not even have insurance.
Well, listen, Brian, for that to come down, for the deductibles to come down, I don't think we can continue to spread our resources across the entire population. Let me say what I mean by that. The mandates are not popular. If we get rid of the individual mandate, then there's going to be more choice in the system. But what are your choices? If we leave all pre-existing conditions in place, then everyone is paying for everyone else. But listen to this. 5% of Americans use up 50% of our health care costs. 5% use up 50%. So that's why we have to separate out people with pre-existing conditions. Dr. Emanuel wants all the essential benefits in, but I think the government, we got to look at the role of government. The government should protect us against the plague, should protect us against hospitalization. The role of the government is not to make sure that we have no copay on a colonoscopy. I love colonoscopies. I love mammograms. I order them on every one of my patients.
Right.
But if you have the government making sure that isn't provided, premiums are going to stay high and deductibles will stay high. The government should play that role. We need an a la carte menu.
Right. That's one of the phrases I never thought I'd hear. I love colonoscopies, but I know what you're talking about. Dr. Emanuel, go ahead.
I love what they find.
Let's hope he's not ordering them on every one of his patients, since people under 50 and over 75 should not be getting them.
Of course.
So we do need to be a little careful that we don't overuse and drive up health care costs without getting necessary benefits. Let me just say one thing. By cutting and having a, quote, a la carte menu, all you end up doing is asking people to pay for their own health care and to pay out of pocket. And that's not possible. The reason 5% of people are using 50% of costs is that they're sick. They have cancer. They have serious heart disease.
Right.
And they can't pay for all the services they need out of their own pocket. That's why we have insurance, to spread the costs across everyone and across a lifetime.
Dr. Emanuel and Dr. Siegel, having said everything that we want idealistically, the plan that Ryan put forward, the best you know of it, they're going to make some changes in the fourth committee, and then bring it to the House. Can you give me 2 things you'd like to see practically change? First, Dr. Siegel, two things that Ryan's got to add.
Okay, first of all, I want to see high-risk pools. I want to see more choice, because you know what? Innovation cannot be covered by one-size-fits-all insurance. And I want to agree with Dr. Emanuel on one thing. I want to see the Medicaid expansion preserved. I wanted to see it made more efficient by our Medicaid czar. I want to see bridge to jobs put in. I want to see premium pay-ins on it. But we can cut down on Medicaid costs without getting rid of that expansion. That'll bring in some Democrats.
Dr. Emanuel, a couple of things you want Paul Ryan to do before it goes to the General House.
Well, they do have a $100 billion stabilization fund in there. I don't want that cut. Basically, that does provide some reinsurance to the insurance companies and additional subsidies for people who are sick and are having a hard time buying insurance. Both of those things are really important to actually having a good and stable health insurance market, and I think they need to be preserved. The right wing, the Freedom Caucus, does not like those things. They find them more, quote-unquote, bailouts, but they're very, very essential. And then I think you have an agreement here that preserving the expansion of Medicaid is really important. Remember, the Ryan proposal, when scored, will mean that 1 in 5 Americans will not have insurance. That is not a good place to be. That's the reason. Let me just finish. 1 in 5 people will not be insured. That means that's why the AMA, the American Hospital Association, is against this bill.
If we have a catastrophic option, if we have a catastrophic option,
thank you very much. Dr. Siegel, Dr. Emanuel, thanks so much.
Great to see you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Straight ahead, Ivanka Trump sitting down with Latina business leader, and she's here to talk about it. Plus, President Trump definitely not loving this McDonald's tweet. So did the Hamburglar really just hack the fast food giant's Twitter account, or are they just covering their butt? Carly Shimkus joining our St. Patrick's Day celebration without tripping.
At the White House yesterday, his first daughter, Ivanka Trump, sat down for a roundtable discussion with Latina business leaders. We're going to be talking to a guest who was there coming up in the show. But right now, we're going to hand it over to Carly Shimkus, who's following social media. What's trending today?
Hey. What was up with McDonald's and their Twitter account?
Who cares about McDonald's? Aren't we eating corned beef and cabbage today?
Not yet.
Yes.
Not yet.
All right, let's do that.
was giving us a dispensation.
McDonald's became this epicenter of political talk yesterday after somebody sent out an anti-Trump tweet using the company Twitter handle.
Here it is.
Yes, that tweet said, @RealDonaldTrump, you are actually a disgusting excuse for a president, and we would love to have Barack Obama back. Also, you have tiny hands.
Where'd they come from?
So McDonald's conducted an investigation. They're saying that an external source sent out the tweet. So they're saying that they're innocent. It wasn't somebody that worked for the company. But this led a lot of people to wonder who the guilty culprit might be. So a lot of people were talking about it. I think we have a couple tweets.
Yeah, I mean, they say Robert Gibbs is in communications there. Either he was healing things, or some people say he might have been behind
it. A lot of people think the Hamburglar is the culprit behind this. Yes, absolutely.
What else are they saying?
All right. Well, we have another Twitter user notified us that our account was compromised. Oh, we deleted that tweet. That's
McDonald's.
That's McDonald's saying that. Yes, absolutely. And there's a whole bunch of tweets rolling in on this topic as well.
Okay. So what's the next trend? I think we're going to talk about Mick Mulvaney and what happened with his triplets.
Yes. Well, another member of the press gave another member of Trump's team, gave the media a public dressing down yesterday. This time it was Mick Mulvaney, but not for the reason you'd think. Take a listen.
I'm going to call on the New York Times because they're in trouble. They printed this morning that I'm the father of 17-year-old triplet girls. My 17-year-old daughter really wishes that we're happy, or really wishes that had happened, but my two 17-year-old sons are really upset.
Got the gender wrong. Yeah, so we actually did give the New York Times some credit. He's like, well, you got the number of kids right. You just got the gender wrong.
Hashtag
the boys
fake
are mad about that
kids.
one.
Boys are not girls.
Yes,
Exactly.
yeah.
All right, Chelsea Clinton, she has a children's book coming out.
She has a children's book coming out.
Good, finally.
The title is She Persisted. Does that remind you of anything?
Yes.
That reminds you of when Mitch McConnell said, when explaining why they silenced Elizabeth Warren. So a lot of people are talking about this one. We have some tweets coming in here. Actually, let's listen to the soundbite of Mitch McConnell.
This is how, let's relive it.
She was warned. She was given an explanation. Nevertheless, she persisted.
There you go.
So that's where it came from.
That's where it came from. So a lot of talk on this one. Michelle says it's time to stop using that phrase. Another tweet from Fred said she persisted through what? An entitled life as photo prop for her deviant daddy and money laundering mama.
I don't think she voted for Hillary.
And then Pete said she persisted to whine until the Clinton FDN finally paid for her wedding. A lot of controversy over a children's book.
Absolutely.
Holy moly.
I think that Chelsea's going to end up running for office soon. Why else
Yeah,
would
a lot
she
of
be
people
talking
are
so much?
wondering about that.
Hear what she
Talking so much. I tried and tried and tried to get an interview with her during the campaign. No.
Well,
no,
now she's
no.
talking, now that it doesn't matter.
Come on our show, Chelsea. We'd love to talk
Well,
to
we
you.
tried to get her mom. We tried to get her dad.
We did.
We're all busy.
Hey, all right, so good job. You have to go do radio, I guess.
Yeah, we all should get into the warm. It's a little cold outside.
I know,
right?
it is a little bit. These guys don't mind it, though.
The good thing about working this
Good
early,
Irish
though,
blood.
Carly, you can get out there to the pubs a little later.
I
this
know. I
afternoon
think they
while
open at
everyone else is
11.
working.
Well, yeah, I don't know that from any experience.
Actually, you don't even need to leave.
Yeah.
We got one right here.
All right. Hey, thanks a lot, Carly. We'll see you on Channel 115 over on Sirius. Meanwhile, Ivanka Trump sitting down with Latina business leaders. Coming up, we're going to talk to one of the CEOs at the table to give us the play-by-play.
Ladies and gentlemen, would you like to start your engines?
President Trump, not the only one working to create jobs. His daughter Ivanka sat down with Latina business leaders yesterday. One of them, the CEO and co-founder of CN Plus, Lily Gil Valletta. Good morning. Great to see you, Lily.
Good morning.
Thank you. Tell me about this roundtable discussion. So it was at the White House?
It was actually not at the White
Where
House.
was
We
it?
were at the Mayflower Hotel.
Okay, so you go to the hotel.
Very private, intimate room. There was about a dozen of us.
Only 12 people sitting at the table with Ivanka.
Yes.
What'd you think of her?
It was delightful. I mean,
you know,
we read about her desire to help women, and we could see it genuinely in the meeting. It was an amazing moment. It was facilitated by the U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, that obviously is the body that aggregates all of us as one body.
So the Chamber of Commerce asked her to do this. She said yes to that invitation, sat down with you guys. What did you discuss?
So we started by getting to know each other. So there was a nice discussion around the table of who we were, what we do, and what our journeys were, especially people like us that are immigrants. It's a different journey. And then we talked about shared priorities. How can we work together as one body of women? Because women are actually driving the growth in new firms as small business owners, and minority women are actually doing it 10 times more.
Right.
So there is an opportunity for us to work together so the entire American economy rises, and that was the core of our discussion.
And how is she going to take that conversation and apply it to what's happening in government?
You know, it was interesting how she said that the day after the election, she realized all of a sudden she had the biggest platform she could have ever hoped for women. And while she does not work for the administration, as we know, she did ask us, tell me any good ideas you may have that I could bring forward, of course, with her father or the administration. So she's looking for that, for innovation, what's working and what is not, and we shared some of those with her.
Yeah, she's been criticized. She posts beautiful pictures of her family as a working mother of 3. Do you know how hard that is? She posts these pictures on social media and is criticized for it. As women, I feel like we need to stick together and support one another and have open dialogues like you did here at the hotel yesterday.
Absolutely. And you know, a lot of people look at these women issues and they say, oh, here we go, the women again complaining about this or that. But the numbers are real. And if we are driving the growth in new firms and small businesses drive the growth in new jobs, yet we don't have our full share of revenues, then that's going to affect everybody's economy.
Well, thank you so much. Keep meeting with her and let us know. Keep filling us in.